Okay, people, so I am going to continue Imagine Me by Tahereh Mafi. I'm sorry it's been so long that I have updated my stepfather died on Tuesday, and today is Monday. And so it's been a rough week. I'm still not really feeling up to doing this, but I need to actually get this done because this is due tomorrow at the library and I cannot check it out anymore. So I need to try and get this done so that I can return it. So let's get this party started here. Juliet. I wake in waves, consciousness bathing me slowly. I break the surface of sleep, gasping for air before I'm pulled under. Another current, another. Memories wrap around me by my bones. I sleep. When I sleep, I dream I am sleeping. In those dreams, I dream I am dead. I can't tell real from fiction, can't tell dreams from truth, can't tell time anymore. It might have been days or years. Who knows? I begin to stir. I dream even as I wake. Dream of red lips and slender fingers. Dream of eyes, hundreds of eyes. I dream of air and anger and death. I dream Emmeline's dreams. She's here. She went quiet once she settled here in my mind. She stilled, retreated, hid from me, from the world. I feel heavy with her presence, but she does not speak. She only decays. Her mind decomposing slowly, leaving compost in its wake. I am heavy with it, heavy with her refuse. I am incapable of carrying this weight, no matter how strong Evie made me. I am incapable, incompatible. I am not enough to hold our minds combined. Emmeline's powers are too much. I drown in it. I gasp. When my head breaks the surface again, I drag air into my lungs, beg my eyes to open, and they laugh. Eyes laughing at lungs gasping at pain ricocheting up my spine. Today there's a boy. Not one of the regular boys, not Aaron or Stephen or Hader. This is a new boy, a boy I've never met before. I can tell just by standing next to him that he's terrified. We stand in the big wide room filled with trees. We stare at the white birds, the birds with the yellow streaks and the crowns on their heads. The boy stares at the birds like he's never seen anything like them. He stares at everything with surprise or fear or worry. It makes me realize that he doesn't know how to hide his emotions. Whenever Mr. Anderson looks at him, he sucks in his breath. Whenever I look at him, he goes bright red. Whenever Mum speaks to him, he stutters. What do you think? Mr. Anderson says to Mum. He tries to whisper, but this room is so big it echoes a little. Mum tilts her head at the boy, studies him. He's what? 6 years old? But doesn't wait for him to answer. Mum just shakes her head and sighs. Has it really been that long? Mr. Anderson looks at the boy, unfortunately. I glance at him, at the boy standing next to me, and watch as he stiffens. Tears spring to his eyes, and it hurts to watch. It hurts so much. I hate Mr. Anderson so much. I don't know why Mum likes him. I don't know why anyone likes him. Mr. Anderson is an awful person, and he hurts Aaron all the time. In fact, now that I think about it, there's something about this boy that reminds me of Aaron, something about his eyes. Hey, I whisper, and turn to face him. He swallows hard, wipes his tears with the edge of his sleeve. Hey, I try again. I'm Ella. What's your name? The boy looks up then. His eyes are a deep, dark blue. He's the saddest boy I've ever met, and it makes me sad just to look at him. I'm Adam, he says quietly. He turns red again. I take his hand in mine, smile at him. We're going to be friends, okay? Don't worry about Mr. Anderson. No one likes him. He's mean to all of us, I promise. Adam laughs, but his eyes are still red. His hand trembles in mine, but he doesn't let go. I don't know, he whispers. He's pretty mean to me. I squeeze his hand. Don't worry, I say. I'll protect you. Adam smiles at me then. Smiles a real smile, but when we finally look up again, Mr. Anderson is staring at us. He looks angry. There's a buzzing building inside of me. A mass of sound that consumes thought, devours conversation. We are flies, gathering, swarming, bulging eyes and fragile bones flittering nervously toward imagined destinies. We hurl our bodies at the panes of tantalizing windows, aching for the world promised on the other side. Day after day we drag injured wings and eyes and organs around the same four walls. Open or close, the exits elude us. We hope to be rescued by a breeze, hoping for a chance to see the sun. Decades pass, centuries stacked together, our bruised bodies still careen through the air. We continue to hurl ourselves at promises. There is madness in the repetition, that underscores our lives. It is only in the desperate seconds before death that we realize the windows against which we broke our bodies were only mirrors all along. Bear with me. Mark what page I'm on. Kenji. Oh, pages are sticking together. It's been 4 days. 4 days of nothing. Jay is still sleeping. The twins are calling it a coma, but I'm calling it sleeping. I'm choosing to believe Jay is just really, really tired. Just needs to sleep off some stress and she'll be fine. This is what I keep telling everyone. She'll be fine. She's just tired, I say to Brendan, and when she wakes up, she'll be glad we waited for her to go to get James. It'll be fine. We're in the queue, which is short for the quiet tent, which is stupid because it's never quiet in here. The queue is the default common room. It's a gathering space / game room where people at the sanctuary get together in the evenings and relax. I am in the kitchen area leaning against the insubstantial counter. Brendan and Winston and Ian and I are waiting for the electric kettle to boil tea. This was Brendan's idea, of course. For some reason, we could never get our hands on tea back at the Omega Point. We only had coffee, and it was seriously rationed. Only after we moved onto base in Sector 45 did Brendan realize we could get our hands on tea. But even then, he wasn't so militant about it. But here, Brendan's made it his mission to force hot tea down our throats every night. He doesn't even need the caffeine. His ability to manipulate electricity always keeps his body charged, but he says he likes it because he finds the ritual soothing, so whatever. Now we gather in the evenings and drink tea. Brendan puts milk in his tea. Winston adds whiskey. Ian and I drink it black. Right? I say when no one answers me. I mean, a coma is basically just a really long nap. Jay will be fine. The girls will get her better, and then she'll be fine, and everything will be fine, and James and Adam will be fine, obviously, because Sam's seen them, and she says they're fine. Sam saw them and said they were unconscious. Ian says opening and closing cabinets. When he finds what he's looking for, a sleeve of cookies, he rips the package open. He doesn't even have a chance to pull one free before Winston's swiped it. Those cookies are for our tea, he says sharply. Ian glowers. We all glance at Brendan, who seems oblivious to the sacrifices being made in his honor. Yes, Sam said that they were unconscious. He says, collecting small spoons from a drawer, but she also said they looked stable, alive. Exactly, I say, pointing at Brendan. Thank you. Stable, alive. These are the critical words. Brendan takes the rescued sleeve of cookies from Winston's proffered hand and begins arranging dishes and flatware with a confidence that baffles us all. He doesn't look up when he says, It's really kind of amazing, isn't it? Winston and I share a confused look. I wouldn't call it amazing. Ian says, plucking a spoon from the tray. He examines it, but I guess forks and shit are pretty cool as far as inventions go. Brendan frowns, looks up. I'm talking about Sam. Her ability to see across long distances. He retrieves the spoon from Ian's hand and replaces it on the tray. What a remarkable skill. Sam's preternatural ability to see across long distances was what convinced us of Anderson's threats to begin with. Several days ago, when we first got the news about the kidnapping, she'd used both data and sheer determination to pinpoint Anderson's location to our old base at Sector 45. She'd spent a straight 14 hours searching, and though she hadn't been able to get a visual on the other Supreme kids, she'd been able to see flickers of James and Adam, who are the only ones I care about anyway. Those flickers of life, unconscious but alive and stable, aren't much in the way of assurances, but I'm willing to take anything at this point. Anyway, yeah, Sam is great, I say, stretching out against the counter. Which brings me back to my original point. Adam and James are going to be fine, and Jay is going to wake up soon and be fine. The world owes me at least that much, right? Brendan and Ian exchange glances. Winston takes off his glasses and cleans them slowly with the hem of his shirt. The electric kettle pops and steams. Brendan drops a couple of tea bags into a proper tea pot and fills its porcelain belly with the hot water from the kettle. He then wraps the teapot in a towel and hands it to Winston, and the two of them carry everything over to the little corner of the room we've been claiming for ourselves lately. It's nothing major, just a cluster of seats with a couple of low tables in the middle. The rest of the room is abuzz with activity, lots of talking and mingling. Noria and Sam are alone in a corner, deep in conversation. Castle is talking quietly with the girls, Sonia and Sarah. We've all been spending a lot of time here. Pretty much everyone has, ever since the sanctuary was declared officially on lockdown. We're all in this weird limbo right now. There's so much happening, but we're not allowed to leave the grounds. We can't go anywhere or do anything about anything. Not yet, anyway. Just waiting for Jay to wake up. Any minute now. There are a ton of other people here too, but only some I'm beginning to recognize. I nod hello to a couple of people I know only by name and drop into a soft, well-worn armchair. It smells like coffee and old wood in here, but I'm starting to like it. It's becoming a familiar routine. Brendan, as usual, finishes setting everything up on the coffee table, teacups, spoons, little plates, and triangle napkins. A little pitcher for milk. He's really into this whole thing. He readjusts the cookies he'd already arranged on a plate and smooths out the paper napkins. Ian stares at him with the same expression every night, like Brendan is cool. Hey, Winston says sharply, knock it off. Knock what off? Ian says, incredulous. Come on, man, you don't think this is a little weird, having tea parties every night? Winston lowers his voice to a whisper. I'll kill you if you ruin this for him. All right. Enough. I'm not deaf, you know. Brendan narrows his eyes at Ian. And I don't care if you lot think it's weird. I've little left of England, save this. That shuts us up. I stare at the teapot. Brendan says it's steeping, and then suddenly he claps his hands together. He stares straight at me, his blue eyes and white blonde hair giving me Warner vibes. But somehow, even with all his bright white hues, Brendan is the opposite of Warner. Unlike Warner, Brendan glows. He's warm, kind, naturally hopeful, and super smiley. Poor Winston. Winston, who's secretly in love with Brendan and too afraid of ruining their friendship to say anything about it. Winston thinks he's too old for Brendan, but the thing is, he's not getting any younger either. I keep telling Winston that if he wants to make a move, he should do it now. Well, he's still got his original hips, and he says, ha ha, I'll murder you, asshole, and reminds me he's waiting for the right moment, but I don't know. Sometimes I think he'll keep it inside forever, and I'm worried it might kill him. I didn't realize that. That is so cool. Winston has a thing for Brendan. That is so cute. Oh, I hope they get together. So listen, Brendan says carefully, we wanted to talk to you. I blink, refocusing. Who, me? I glance around at their faces. Suddenly they all look serious, too serious. I try to laugh when I ask, what's going on? Is this some kind of intervention? Yes. Brendan says, sort of. I go suddenly stiff. Brendan sighs. Winston scratches a spot on his forehead. Ian says, Juliet is probably going to die. You know that, right? Relief and irritation flood through me simultaneously. I manage to roll my eyes and shake my head at the same time. Stop doing this, Sanchez. Don't be that guy. It's not funny anymore. I'm not trying to be funny. I roll my eyes again, this time looking to Winston for support, but he just shakes his head at me. His eyebrows furrow so hard his glasses slip down his nose. He tugs them off his face. This is serious. He says, she's not okay. And even if she does wake up again, I mean, whatever happened to her, she's not going to be the same. Brendan finishes for him. Says who? I frown. The girls said that something about her chemistry changed. They've been running tests on her for days. Emmeline did something weird to her, something that's like physically altered her DNA, plus her brain is fried. I know what they said. I snap, irritated. I was there when they said it, but the girls were just being cautious. They think it's possible that whatever happened to her might have left some damage, but this is Sonia and Sarah we're talking about. They can heal anything. All we need to do is wait for Jay to wake up. Winston shakes his head again. They wouldn't be able to heal something like that. The girls can't repair that kind of neurological devastation. They might be able to keep her alive, but I'm not sure they'll be able to. She might not even wake up. Ian says, cutting him off. like ever. Or best case scenario, she could be in a coma for years. Listen, the point here is that we need to start making plans without her. If we're going to save James and Adam, we need to go now. I know Sam's been checking on them, and I know she says they're stable for now, but we can't wait anymore. Anderson doesn't know what happened to Juliet, which means he's still waiting for us to give her up, which means Adam and James are still at risk, which means we're running out of time, and for once, I'm not the only one who feels this way. I sit back. Son, you're messing with me, right? Brandon pours tea. Winston pulls a flask out of his pocket and weighs it in his hand before holding it out to me. Maybe you should have this tonight, he says. I glare at him. He shrugs and empties half the flask into his teacup. Listen, Brandon says gently. Ian is a beast with no bedside manner, but he's not wrong. It's time to think of a new plan. We all still love Juliet. It's just... He cuts himself off, frowns. Wait, is it Juliet or Ella? Was there ever a consensus? I'm still scowling when I say I'm calling her Juliet. But I thought she wanted to be called Ella. Winston says. She's in a fucking coma, Ian says and takes a loud sip of tea. She doesn't care what you call her. Don't be such a brute, Brendan says. She's our friend. Your friend, he mutters. Wait, is that what this is about? I sit for her. Are you jealous she never best-friended you, Sanchez? Ian rolls his eyes, looks away. Winston is watching with fascinated interest. All right, drink your tea, Brandon says, biting into a biscuit. He gestures at me with a half-eaten cookie. It's getting cold. I shoot him a tired look, but I take an obligatory sip and nearly choke. It tastes weird tonight, and I'm about to push it away when I realize Brendan is still staring at me, so I take a long, disgusting pull of the dark liquid before replacing the cup in the saucer. I try not to gag. Okay, I say, slamming my palms down on my thighs. Let's put it to a vote. Who here thinks Ian is annoyed that Jay didn't fall in love with him when she showed up at Point? Winston and Brendan share a look. Slowly, they both lift their hands. Ian rolls his eyes again. Pentehouse, maybe? He mutters. The theory holds at least a little water. Winston says, I have a girlfriend, dumbasses. And as if on cue, Lily looks up from across the room, locks eyes with Ian. She's sitting with Aaliyah and some other girl I don't recognize. Lily waves. Ian waves back. Sorry, I did the wrong voice for Ian. My bad. He's the one that said he has a girlfriend. Yes, but you're used to a certain level of attention. Winston says, reaching for a biscuit. He looks up, scans the room. Like those girls right over there, he says, gesturing with his head. They've been staring at you since you walked in. They have not, Ian says, but can't help but glance over. It's true, Brandon shrugs. You're a handsome guy. Winston chokes on his tea. Okay, enough. Ian holds up his hands. I know you guys think this is hilarious, but I'm being serious. At the end of the day, Juliet is your friend, not mine. I exhale dramatically. Ian shoots me a look. When she first showed up at Point, I tried reaching out to her to offer my friendship, and she never followed up. And even after we were taken hostage by Anderson, he nods in acknowledgement at Brendan and Winston. She took her sweet time trying to get information out of Warner. She never gave a shit about the rest of us, and all we've ever done is put everything on the line to protect her. Hey, that's not fair, Winston said, shaking his head. She was in an awful position. Whatever, Ian mutters. He looks down into his tea. This whole situation is some kind of bullshit. Cheers to that, Brendan says, refilling his cup. Now have more tea. Ian mutters a quiet, angry thank you and lifts the cup to his lips as suddenly he stiffens. And then there's this, he says, raising an eyebrow. As if all that weren't enough, we have to deal with this douchebag. Oh, there's a typo. As if all that weren't enough, we have to deal with this douchebag. Ian gestures with the teacup toward the entrance. Shit, Warner is here. She brought him here, Ian is saying, but he has the sense, at least, to keep his voice down. It's because of her that we have to tolerate this asshole. To be fair, that was originally Castle's idea, I point out. Ian flips me off. What's he doing here? Brandon asked quietly. I shake my head and take another unconscious sip of my disgusting tea. There's something about the grossness that's beginning to feel familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. I look up again. I haven't spoken a word to Warner since that first day. The day Jay got attacked by Emmeline. He's been a ghost since then. No one has really seen him, no one but the Supreme Kids, I think. He went straight back to his roots. It looks like he finally took a shower, though no blood, and I'm guessing he healed himself, though there's no way to be sure because he's fully clothed, wearing an outfit I can only assume was borrowed from Hader, a lot of leather. I watch for only a few seconds as he stalks clear across the room, straight through people and conversations, and apologizing to no one, towards Sonia and Sarah, who are still talking to Castle. Whatever. Dude doesn't even look at me anymore, doesn't even acknowledge my existence. Not that I care. It's not like we were actually friends. At least that's what I keep telling myself. Somehow I've already drained my teacup because Brendan refilled it. I throw back the fresh cup in a couple of quick gulps and shove a dry biscuit in my mouth, and then I shake my head. All right, we're getting distracted, I say, and the words feel like just a little too loud even to my own ears. Focus, please. Right. Winston says, focus. What are we focusing on? New mission? Ian says, sitting back in the chair. He counts off on his fingers. Save Adam and James, kill the other Supreme Commanders, finally get some sleep. Nice and easy. Brendan says, I like it. You know what? I say, I think I should go talk to him. Winston raises an eyebrow. Talk to who? Warner, obviously. My brain feels warm, a little fuzzy. I should go talk to him. No one talks to him. Why are we just letting him revert back into an asshole? I should talk to him. That's a great idea, Ian says, smiling as he sits forward. Go for it. Don't you dare listen to him, Winston says, shoving Ian back into his chair. Ian just wants to watch you get murdered. Fucking rude, Sanchez. Ian shrugs. On an unrelated note, Winston says to me, how does your head feel? I frown gingerly, touching my fingers to my skull. What do you mean? I mean, Winston says, that this is probably a good time to tell you I've been pouring whiskey in your tea all night. What the hell? I sit up too fast. Bad idea. Why? You seemed stressed. I'm not stressed. Everyone stares at me. All right, whatever. I'm stressed, but I'm not drunk. No. He peers at me. But you probably need all the brain cells you could spare if you're going to talk to Warner. I would. I'm not too proud to admit that I find him generally terrifying. Ian rolls his eyes. There's nothing terrifying about that guy. That his only problem is that he's an arrogant son of a puta with his own head stuck so far up his ass he could... Wait, I say, blinking. Where'd he go? Everyone spins around looking for him. I swear, 5 seconds ago he was standing right there. I swivel my head back and forth like a cartoon character, understanding only vaguely that I'm moving both a little too fast and a little too slow, due to Winston, #1 idiot / well-meaning friend. But in the process of scanning the room for Warner, I spot the one person I've been making an effort to avoid. Nazira. I fling myself back down in my chair too hard, nearly knocking myself out. I hunch over, breathing a little funny, and then, for no rational reason, I start laughing. Sounds like something I would do when I'm drunk. Of course, I haven't been drunk in a very long time, but you know. Okay. Continuing the story. Winston, Ian, and Brendan are all staring at me like I'm insane, and I don't blame them. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. I don't even know why I'm hiding from Nazira. There's nothing scary about her, not exactly. Nothing more scary than the fact that we haven't really discussed the last emotional conversation we had shortly after she kicked me in the back and I nearly murdered her for it. She told me I was her first kiss, and then the sky melted and Juliet was possessed by her sister and the romantic moment was forever interrupted. It's been about 5 days since she and I had that conversation, and ever since then it's just been super stress and work and more stress, and Anderson is an asshole and James and Adam are both being held hostage. Also, I've been pissed at her. There's a part of me that would really, really like to just carry her away to a private corner somewhere, but there's another part of me that won't allow it, because I'm mad at her. She knew how much it meant to me to go after James, and she just shrugged it off with little to no sympathy. A little sympathy, I guess, much, but not much. Anyway, am I thinking too much? I think I'm thinking too much. He's so wasted. What the hell is wrong with you? Ian is staring at me, stunned. Nazira is here. So I don't know. Nazira is here. I say, keeping my voice low, and I don't want to talk to her. Why not? Because my head is stupid right now, that's why. I glare at Winston. You did this to me. You made my head stupid, and now I have to avoid Nazira because if I don't, I will almost certainly do or say something extremely stupid and fuck everything up, so I need to hide. Damn, Ian says and shrugs. That's too bad because she's heading straight here. I stiffen, stare at him, and then to Brendan. Is he lying? Brendan shakes his head. I'm afraid not, mate. Shit. It's nice to see you, too, Kenji. I look up. She's smiling. Ugh, so pretty. I say, how are you? She looks around, fights back a laugh. I'm good, she says. How are you? Fine. Thanks for asking. It was nice seeing you. Nazira glances from me to the other guys and back again. I know you hate it when I ask you this, but are you drunk? No, I say too loudly. I slump down farther in my seat. Not drunk, just a little fuzzy. The whiskey is starting to settle now, warm, liquid fingers reaching up around my brain and squeezing. She raises an eyebrow. Winston did it, I say and point. He shakes his head and sighs. All right, Nazira says, but I can hear the mild irritation in her voice. Well, this is not the ideal situation, but I'm going to need you on your feet. What? I crane my head, look at her. Why? There's been a development with Ella. What kind of development? I sit straight up, feeling suddenly sober. Is she awake? Nazira tilts her head. Not exactly. Then what? You should come see for yourself. Juliet. Adam feels close. I can almost see him in my mind, a blurred form, watercolors bleeding through membrane, staining the whites of my eyes. He is a flood of river blues in lakes so dark, water in oceans so heavy I sag, surrendering to the heft of the sea. I take a deep breath and fill my lungs with tears. Feathers of strange birds fluttering against my closed eyes. I see a flash of dirty blonde hair and darkness and stone. I see blue and green and warmth. Suddenly an exhalation in my veins. Emmeline. Still here, still swimming. She has grown quiet of late, the fire of her presence reduced to glowing embers. She is sorry for taking me from myself, sorry for the inconvenience, sorry to have disturbed my world so deeply. Still, she does not want to leave. She likes it here, likes stretching out inside my bones. She likes the dry air and the taste of real oxygen. She likes the shape of my fingers, the sharpness of my teeth. She is sorry, but not sorry enough to go back. So she is trying to be very small and very quiet, and she hopes to make it up to me by taking up as little space as possible. I don't know how I understand this so clearly, except that her mind seems to have fused with mine. Conversation is no longer necessary, explanations redundant. In the beginning, she inhaled everything, excited, eager. She took it all. New skin, eyes and mouth. I felt her marvel in my anatomy. At the systems drawing in air through my nose, I seemed to exist here almost as an afterthought. Blood pumping through an organ, beating merely to pass the time. I was little more than a passenger in my own body, doing nothing as she explored and decayed and sparks, still scraping against itself. Stunning contractions of pain, like claws, digging. It's better now that she's settled, but her presence has faded to all but an aching sadness. She seems desperate to find purchase as she disintegrates, unwittingly taking with her bits and pieces of my mind. Some days are better than others. Some days the fire of her existence is so acute I forget to draw breath. But most days I am an idea, and nothing more. I am foam and smoke, moonlighting as skin. Dandelions gather in my rib cage. Moss growing steadily along my spine. Rainwater floods my eyes, pools in my mouth. It dribbles down the hinges holding together my lips. I continue to sink. And then, why now? Suddenly, surprisingly, chest heaving, lungs working, fists clenching, knees bending, pulse racing, blood pumping. I float. Miss Ferrars. This is Ella. Her name is Juliet. Her name is Juliet. Just call her Juliet, for God's sake. Why don't we call her what she wants to be called? Right, exactly. But I thought she wanted to be called Ella. There was never a consensus. Was there a consensus? I don't know whose voices these are, so I'm just kind of... Slowly, my eyelids flutter open. Silence explodes, coating mouths and walls and doors and dust motes. It hangs in the air, cloaking everything for all of 2 seconds. Then, shouts, screams, a million sounds. I try to count them all and my head spins, swims. My heart is pounding hard and fast in my chest, recklessly shaking me, shaking my hands, wringing my skull. I look around fast, too fast, head whipping back and forth, and everything swings around, and so many faces blurred and strange. I'm breathing too hard, spots dotting my vision, and I place 2 hands down on the... I look down, bed below me, and squeeze my eyes shut. What am I? Who am I? Where am I? Silence again, swift and complete, like magic. A hush falls over everyone, everything, and I exhale, panic draining out of me, and I sit back, soaking in the dregs when warm hands touch mine. Familiar. I go suddenly still. My eyes stay closed. Feeling moves through me like a wildfire. Flames devouring the dust in my chest, the kindling in my bones. Hands become arms around me, and the fire blazes. My own hands are caught between us, and I feel the hard lines of his body through the soft cotton of his shirt. A face appears, disappears behind my eyes. There is something so safe here in the feel of him, in the scent of him, something entirely his own. Being near him, doing something to me. Something I can't even explain, can't control. No, I shouldn't, but I can't help but drag the tips of my fingers down the perfect lines of his torso. I hear his breath catch. Flames leap through me, jump up my lungs, and I inhale, dragging oxygen into my body that only fans the flames further. One of his hands clasps the back of my head. The other grasps at my waist. A flash of heat roars up my spine, reaches into my skull. His lips are at my ear, whispering. Come back to me, love. I'll be here when you wake up. My eyes fly open. The heat is merciless. Confusing, consuming. It calms me, settles my raging heart. His hands move along my body, light touches along my arms, the sides of my torso. I claw my way back to him by memory, my shaking hands tracing the familiar shape of his back, my cheek still pressed against the familiar beat of his heart, the scent of him so familiar, and then I look up. His eyes, something about his eyes. Please, he says. Please don't shoot me for this. The room comes into focus by degrees, my head settling onto my neck, my skin settling onto my bones, my eyes staring into the very desperately green eyes that seem to know too much, too well. Aaron Warner Anderson has been over me, his worried eyes inspecting me, his hand caught in the air like he might have been about to touch me. He jerks back, he stares, unblinking, chest rising and falling. Good morning, I assume. I'm unsure of my voice, of the hour and this day, of these words leaving my lips in this body that contains me. His smile looks like it's hurt. Something's wrong, he whispers. He touches my cheek, soft, so soft, like he's not sure if I'm real, like he's afraid if he gets too close, I'll just, oh, look, she's gone. She's just disappeared. His 4 fingers graze the side of my face, slowly, so slowly before they slip behind my head, caught in that in-between spot just above my neck. His thumb brushes the apple of my cheek. My heart implodes. He keeps looking at me, looking into my eyes for help, for guidance, for some sign of a protest, like he's so sure I'm going to start screaming or crying or running away, but I won't. I don't think I could even if I wanted to, because I don't want to. I want to stay here, right here. I want to be paralyzed by this moment. He moves closer, just an inch. His free hand reaches up to cup the other side of my face. He's holding me like I'm made of feathers, like I'm a bird, white with streaks of gold, like a crown atop its head. I will fly. A soft, shuddering breath leaves his body. Something's wrong, he says again, but distantly, like he might be talking to someone else. Her energy is different, tainted. The sound of his voice coils through me, spirals around my spine. I feel myself straighten even as I feel strange, jet-lagged, like I've traveled through time. I pull myself into a seated position and Warner shifts to accommodate me. I'm tired and weak from hunger, but other than a few general aches, I seem to be fine. I'm alive. I'm breathing and blinking and feeling human, and I know exactly why. I meet his eyes. You saved my life. He tilts his head at me. He's still studying me, his gaze so intense I flush, confused, and turn away. The moment I do, I nearly jump out of my skin. Castle and Kenji and Winston and Brennan and a ton of other people I don't recognize are all staring at me, at Warner's hands on me, and I'm suddenly so mortified I don't even know what to do with myself. Hey, princess. Kenji waves. You okay? I try to stand, and Warner tries to help me, and the moment his skin brushes mine, another sudden destabilizing bolt of feeling runs me over. I stumble sideways into his arms, and he pulls me in, his heat setting fire to my body all over again. I'm trembling, heart pounding, nervous pleasure pulsing through me. I don't understand. I'm overcome by a sudden and inexplicable need to touch him, to press my skin against his skin until the friction sets fire to us both. Because there's something about him. There's always been something about him that's intrigued me, and I don't understand it. I pull away, startled by the intensity of my own thoughts, but his fingers catch me under the chin. He tilts my face forward. He tilts my face toward him. I look up. His eyes are such a strange shade of green, bright, crystal clear, piercing in the most alarming way. His hair is thick, the richest slice of gold. Everything about him is meticulous, pristine. His breath is cool and fresh. I can feel it on my face. My eyes close. Automatically, I breathe him in, and feeling suddenly giddy, a bubble of laughter escapes my lips. Something's definitely wrong, someone says. Yeah, she doesn't look like she's okay. Someone else. Okay, so we're all just saying really obvious things out loud. Is that what we're doing? Kenji. Warner says nothing. I feel his arms tighten around me and my eyes flicker open. His gaze is fixed on mine, his eyes green flames that will not extinguish, and his chest is rising and falling so fast, so fast, so fast. His lips are there, right there, above mine. Ella, he whispers. I frown. My eyes flick up to his eyes, then down to his lips. Love, do you hear me? When I don't answer, his face changes. Juliet, he says softly, can you hear me? I blink at him. I blink and blink and blink at him and find I'm still fascinated by his eyes, such a startling shade of green. We're going to need everyone to clear the room, someone says suddenly, loudly. We need to begin running tests immediately. The girls, I realize, it's the girls. They're here. Sorry, I guess I did the wrong voice again. They're trying to get him away from me, trying to get him to break away from me, but Warner's arms are still like steel bands around my body. He refuses. Not yet, he says urgently. Not just yet. And for some reason they listen. Maybe they see something in him, see something in his face, in his features. Maybe they see what I see from this disjointed, foggy perspective. The desperation in his expression, the anguish carved in his features. The way he looks at me like he might die if I do. Tentatively, I reach up, touch my fingers to his face. His skin is smooth and cold, porcelain. He doesn't seem real. What's wrong? I say. What happened? Impossibly, Warner goes paler. He shakes his head and presses his face to my cheek. Please, he whispers. Come back to me, love. Aaron? I hear the small hitch in his breath, the hesitation. It's the first time I've used his name so casually. Yes. I want you to know, I tell him, that I don't think you're crazy. What? He startles. I don't think you're crazy, I say. And I don't think you're a psychopath. I don't think you're a heartless murderer. I don't care what anyone else says about you. I think you're a good person. Warner is blinking fast now. I can hear him breathing in and out unevenly. A flash of stunning, searing pain in my body goes suddenly slack. I see the glint of metal. I feel the burn of the syringe. My head begins to swim and all the sounds begin to melt together. Come on, son, Castle says, his voice expanding, slowing down. I know this is hard, but we need you to step back. We have to. An abrupt, violent sound gives me a sudden moment of clarity. A man I don't recognize is at the door, one hand on the doorframe, gasping for breath. They're here, he says. They found us. They're here. Jenna is dead. Who the fuck is Jenna? Genji. The guy gasping at the doorframe is still finishing his sentence when everyone jumps into action. Noria and Sam rush past him into the hall, shouting orders and commands. Something about initiating protocol for System Z, something about gathering the children, the elderly, and the sick. Sonya and Sarah press something into Warner's hands to glance one last time at Jay's limp, unconscious figure and chase Noria and Sam out the door. Castle crouches to the ground, closing his eyes. He flattens his hands against the floor, listening, feeling. 11. No, 12 bodies. About 500 feet out. I'd guess we'd have about 2 minutes before they reach us. I'll do my best to slow them down until we can clear out of here. He looks up. Mr. Abraham? I don't even realize Hader is here with us until he says, that's more than enough time. He stalks across the room to the wall opposite Juliet's bed, running his hands along the smooth surface, ripping down picture frames and monitors as he goes. Glass and wood shatter in a heap on the floor. Nazira gasps, goes suddenly still. I turn terrified to face her, and she says, I need to tell Stephen. Or Stefan. Whatever. She dashes out the door. Warner is unhooking Juliet from the bed, removing her needles, bandaging her wounds. Once she's free, he wraps her sleeping body in the soft blue robe hanging nearby, and at nearly the exact same moment I hear the telltale ticking of a bomb. I glance back at the wall where... Damn, there's a bomb. I glance back at the wall where Hader still stands. Two carefully spaced explosives are now affixed to the plaster, and I hardly even have time to digest this before Hader bellows at us to move out into the hall. Warner is already halfway out the door, holding the carefully wrapped bundle of Jay in his arms. I hear Castle's voice, a sudden cry, and my whole body is lifted and thrown out the door too. The room explodes. The walls shake so hard it rattles my teeth, but when the tremors settle, I rush back into the room. Hader blew off a single wall. A perfect, exact rectangle of wall. Gone. I didn't even know such a feat was possible. Pieces of brick and wood and drywall are scattered on the open ground beyond Jay's room, and cold night winds rush in, slapping me awake. The moon is excessively full and bright tonight, a spotlight shining directly into my eyes. I'm stunned. Hader explains without prompting. The hospital is too big, too complicated. We needed an efficient exit. The reestablishment won't care about collateral damage when they come for us. In fact, they might be craving it. But if we're to have any hope of sparing innocent lives, we have to remove ourselves as far from the central buildings and common spaces as possible. Now move out. He shouts, let's go. But I blink at Hader, still recovering from the blast, the lingering whisper of whiskey in my brain, and now this, proof that Hader Ibrahim has a conscience. He and Warner stalk past me through the open door and start running into the gleaming woods. Warner with Jay in his arms, neither of them bothers to explain what they're thinking, where they're going, what the hell is going to happen next. Well, actually, I think that last part is obvious. What's going to happen next is that Anderson is going to show up and try to murder us. Castle and I lock eyes. We're the last people still standing in what remains of Jay's hospital room, and we chase after Warner and Hader toward a clearing at the far end of the sanctuary, as far away from the tents as possible. At one point, Warner breaks off from our group, disappearing down a path so dark I can't see the end of it. When I move to follow, Hader barks at me to leave him alone. I don't know what Warner does with Juliet, but when he rejoins us, she's no longer in his arms. He says something briefly to Hader, but it sounds like French, not Arabic French. Whatever. I don't have time to think about it. It's already been 5 minutes by my estimate. 5 minutes, which means they should be here any second now. There are 12 bodies incoming. There are only 4 of us here. Me, Hader, Castle, Warner. I'm freezing. We're standing quietly in the darkness, waiting for death, and the individual seconds seem to tick by with excruciating slowness. The smell of wet earth and decaying vegetation fills my head, and I look down, feeling but not seeing the thick pile of leaves underfoot. They're soft and slightly damp, rustling a little when I shift my weight. I try not to move. Every sound unnerves me. A sudden shudder of branches, an innocent breeze. My own ragged breath. It's too dark. Even the bright, robust moon isn't enough to properly penetrate these woods. I don't know how we're going to find anyone if we can't see what's coming. The light is uneven, scattering through branches, scattering across the soft earth. I look down, examining the narrow shaft of light illuminating the tops of my boots, and watch as a spider scuttles up and around the obstacle of my feet. My heart is pounding. There's no time. If only we had more time. It's all I can think, over and over again. They caught us off guard. We weren't prepared. It didn't have to go down like this. My head is spinning with what ifs and maybes, and it could have been. Even as I face down the reality right in front of me, even as I stare straight into the black hole devouring my future, I can't help but wonder if we could have done this differently. The seconds build, minutes pass, nothing. The rapid beating of my heart slows into a sick stutter of dread. I've lost perspective. My sense of time is warped in the dark, but I swear it feels like we've been here for too long. Something is wrong, Warner says. I hear a sharp intake of breath. Hader. Warner said softly, "We miscalculated." "No," Castle cries. That's when I hear the screams. We run without hesitation, all 4 of us, hurling ourselves toward the sounds. We tear through branches, sprain ankles on overgrown roots, propel ourselves into the darkness with the force of pure, undiluted panic, rage. Sobs rend the sky. Violent cries echo into the distance, and articulate voices, guttural moans, goosebumps rising along my flesh. We are sprinting toward death. I know we're close when I see the light. Noria. She's cast an ethereal glow above the scene, bringing the remains of a battlefield into sharp focus. We slow down. Time seems to expand, fracturing apart as I bear witness to a massacre. Anderson and his men made a detour. We hoped they'd come straight for Warner, straight for Juliet. We hoped, we tried. We took a gamble. We bet wrong. And we know the reestablishment well enough to understand that they were punishing these innocent people for harboring us, slaughtering entire families for providing us aid and relief. Nausea hits me with the force of a blade, stunning me, knocking me sideways. I slam against a tree. I can feel my mind disconnecting, threatening unconsciousness, and somehow I force myself not to pass out from horror, terror, heartbreak. I keep my eyes open. Sam and Ori are on their knees, holding broken, bleeding bodies close to their chests, their tortured cries piercing the strange half-night. Castle stands beside me, his body slack. I hear his half-choked sobs. We knew it was possible. Haters said they might do this, but somehow I still can't believe my eyes. I desperately want this to be a nightmare. I would cut off my right arm for a nightmare, but reality persists. The sanctuary is little more than a graveyard. Unarmed men and women move down. From where I'm standing, I count 6 children, dead. Oh, eyes open, mouths agape, fresh blood still dripping down limp bodies. Ian is on his knees, vomiting. Winston stumbles backward, hits a tree. His glasses slide down his face, and he only remembers to catch them at the last moment. Only the Supreme kids still seem to have their heads on straight, and there's something about the realization that strikes fear into my heart. Nazira, Hader, Warner, Stefan. They walk humbly through the wreckage, faces unchanged and solemn. I don't know what they've seen, what they've been a part of. That makes them able to stand here still relatively cool in the face of so much human devastation, and I don't think I want to know. I offer Castle my hand, and he takes it, steadies himself. We exchange a single glance before diving into the fray. Anderson is easy to spot, standing tall in the midst of hell, but hard to reach. His supreme guard swarms us, weapons drawn. Still, we move closer. No matter what comes next, we fight to the death. That was always the plan from the first, and it's what we'll do now. Round 2. The still living fighters on the field straighten at our approach, at the scene forming, and still glances at one another. We're surrounded by firepower, that's true, but nearly everyone here has a supernatural power. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to put up a fight. A crowd gathers slowly around us, half sanctuary, half point. Hail bodies breaking away from the wreckage to form a new battalion. I feel the fresh hope moving through the air, the tantalizing maybe. Carefully I pull free a gun from my side holster, and just as I'm about to make a move, don't. Anderson's voice is loud, clear. He breaks through his wall of soldiers stalking toward us casually, looking as polished as always. I don't understand at first why so many people gasp at his approach. I don't see it. I don't notice the body he's dragging with him, and when I finally notice the body, I don't recognize it, not right away. It's not until Anderson jerks the small figure upright, nudging his head back with a gun, that I feel the blood exit my heart. Anderson presses the gun to James's throat, and my knees nearly give out. This is very simple. Anderson says, you will hand over the girl, and in return, I won't execute the boy. We're all frozen. I should clarify, however, that this is not an exchange. I'm not offering to return him to you. I'm only offering not to murder him here on the spot. But if you hand over the girl now, without a fight, I will consider letting most of you disappear into the shadows. Most of us? I say. Anderson's eyes glance off my face and the faces of several others. Yes, most of you. He says, gaze lingering on Hader. Your father is very disappointed in you, young man. A single gunshot explodes without warning, ripping open a hole in Anderson's throat. He grabs at his neck and falls with a choked cry on one knee, looking around for his assailant, Nazira. She materializes in front of him just in time to jump up into the sky. The Supreme soldiers are shooting upward, releasing round after round with impunity. And though I'm terrified for Nazira, I realize she took that risk for me, for James. We'll all do our best, she'd said. I didn't realize her best included risking her life for that kid. For me. God, I fucking love her. I go invisible. Anderson is struggling to stanch the flow of blood at his throat while keeping his grip on James, who appears to be unconscious. 2 guards remain at his side. I fire 2 shots. They both go down, crying out and clutching limbs, and Anderson nearly roars. He starts clawing at the air in front of him, then fumbles for his gun with one red hand, blood still seeping from his lips. I take that opportunity to punch him in the face. He rears back, more surprised than injured, but Brendan moves in quickly, clapping his hands together to create a twisting, crackling bolt of electricity he wraps around Anderson's legs, temporarily paralyzing him. Anderson drops James. I catch him before he hits the floor and bolt toward Lily, who's waiting just outside of Noria's ring of light. I unload his unconscious body into her arms, and Brendan builds an electric shield around their bodies. A beat later, they're gone. A relief floods through me. Too quickly. It unsteadies me. My invisibility falters for less than a second, and in less than a second I'm attacked from behind. I hit the ground hard, air leaving my lungs. I struggle to flip over to stand up, but a Supreme Soldier is already pointing a rifle at my face. He shoots. Oh God. Castle comes out of nowhere, knocking the soldier off his feet, stopping the bullets with a single gesture. He redirects the ammunition meant for my body, and I don't even realize what's happened until I see the dude drop to his knees. He's a human sieve, bleeding out the last of his life right in front of me, and it all feels suddenly surreal. I drag myself up, my head pounding in my throat. Castle is already moving, ripping a tree from its roots as he goes. Stefan is using his super strength to pummel as many soldiers as he can, but they won't stop shooting, and he's moving slowly, blood staining nearly every inch of his clothing. I watch him sway. I run toward him, try to shout a warning, but my voice gets lost in the din, and my legs won't move fast enough. Another soldier charges at him, unloading rounds, and this time I scream. Hader comes running. He dives in front of his friend with a cry, knocking Stefan to the ground, protecting his body with his own, throwing something into the air as he goes. It explodes. I'm thrown backward, my skull ringing. I lift my head, delirious, and spot Nazira and Warner, each locked in hand-to-hand combat. I hear a blood-curdling scream and force myself up toward the sound. It's Sam. Noria beats me to her, falling to her knees to lift her wife's body off the ground. She wraps blinding bands of light around the 2 of them, the protective spirals so bright they're excruciating to look at. A nearby soldier throws his arm over his eyes as he shoots, crying out and holding steady even as the force of Noria's light begins to melt the flesh off his hands. I put a bullet through his teeth. 5 more guards appear out of nowhere, coming at me from all sides, and for half a second I can't help but be surprised. Castle said there was only 12 bodies, 2 of which belonged to Anderson and James, and I thought we'd taken out at least several of the others by now. I glanced around the battlefield at the dozens of soldiers still actively attacking our team, and then back again at the 5 heading my way. My head swims with confusion, and then, when they all begin to shoot, terror. I go invisible, stealing through the single foot of space between 2 of them, turning back just long enough to open fire. A couple of my shots find their marks. The others are wasted. I reload the clip, tossing the now empty one to the ground, and just as I'm about to shoot again, I hear her voice. Hang on, she whispers. Nazira wraps her arms around my waist and jumps up. A bullet whizzes past my calf. I feel the burn as it grazes skin, but the night sky is cool and bracing, and I allow myself to take a steadying breath to close my eyes for a full and complete second. Up here, the screams are muted. The blood could be water. The screams could be laughter. The dream lasts for only a moment. Our feet touch the ground again, and my ears refill with the sounds of war. I squeeze Nazira's hand by way of thanks, and we split up. I charge toward a group of men and women I only vaguely recognize, people from the sanctuary, and throw myself into the bloodshed, urging one of the injured fighters to pull back and take shelter. I'm soon lost in the motions of battle, defending and attacking, guns firing, guttural moaning. I don't even think to look up until I feel the ground shake beneath my feet. Castle. His arms are pointed upward toward a nearby building. The structure begins to shake violently, nails flying, windows shuddering. A cluster of Supreme Guards reaches for their guns, but stops short at the sound of Anderson's voice. I can't hear what he says, but he seems to be nearly himself again, and his command appears to be shocking enough to inspire a most of hesitation in his soldiers. For no reason I can fathom, the cards I'd been fighting suddenly slink away. Too late. The roof of the nearby building collapses with a scream, and with a final violent shove, Castle tears off a wall. With one arm he shoves aside the few of our teammates standing in harm's way, and with the other he drops the ton of wall to the ground, where it lands with an explosive crash. Glass flies everywhere. Wooden beams groaning as they buckle and break. A few Supreme soldiers escape, diving for cover, but at least 3 of them get caught under the rubble. He, we all brace for a retaliatory attack, but Anderson holds up his single arm. His soldiers go instantly still, weapons going slack in their hands. Almost in unison, they stand at attention, waiting. I glance at Caswell for a directive, but he's got eyes on Anderson just like the rest of us. Everyone seems paralyzed by a delirious hope that this war might be over. I watch Castle turn and lock eyes with Noria, who's still cradling Sam to her chest. A moment later, Castle raises his arm. A temporary standstill. I don't trust it. The silence coats the night as Anderson staggers forward, his lips a violent liquid red, his hand casually holding a handkerchief to his neck. We'd heard about this, of course, about his ability to heal himself, but seeing it actually happen in real time is something else altogether. It's wild. When he speaks, his voice shatters the quiet, breaks the spell. Enough, he says. Where is my son? Murmurs move through the crowd of bloody fighters, a red sea slowly but parting at his approach. It's not long before Warner appears, striding forward in the silence, his face spattered in red. A machine gun is locked in his right hand. He looks up at his father. He says nothing. What did you do with her? Anderson says softly and spits blood on the ground. He wipes his lips with the same cloth he's using to contain the open wound on his neck. The whole scene is disgusting. Warner continues to say nothing. I don't think any of us know where he hid her. Jay seems to have disappeared, I realize. Seconds pass in a silence so intense we all begin to worry about the fate of our standstill. I see a few of the Supreme soldiers lift their guns in Warner's direction, and not a second later, a single lightning bolt fractures the sky above us. Brendan. I glance at him, then at Castle, but Anderson once again lifts his arms to stall his soldiers. Once again, they stand down. I will only ask you one more time. Anderson says to his son, his voice trembling as it grows louder. What did you do with her? Still, Warner stares impassively. He's spattered in unknown blood, holding a machine gun like it might be a briefcase and staring at his father like he might be staring at the ceiling. Anderson can't control his temper the way Warner can, and it's obvious to everyone that this is a battle of wills he's going to lose. Anderson already looks half out of his mind. His hair is matted and sticking up in places. Blood is congealing on his face. His eyes shot blood through with red. He looks so deranged, so unlike himself, that I honestly have no idea what's going to happen next. And then he lunges for Warner. He's like a belligerent drunk, wild and angry, unhinged in a way I've never seen before. His swings are wild but strong, unsteady but studied. He reminds me in a sudden, frightening flash of understanding of the father Adam so often described to me, a violent drunk fueled by rage. Except that Anderson doesn't appear to be drunk at the moment. No, this is pure, unadulterated anger. Anderson seems to have lost his mind. He doesn't just want to shoot Warner. He doesn't want someone else to shoot Warner. He wants to beat him to a pulp. He wants physical satisfaction. He wants to break bones and rupture organs with his own hands. Anderson wants the pleasure of knowing that he and he alone was able to destroy his own son. But Warner isn't giving him that satisfaction. He meets Anderson blow for blow in fluid, precise movements, ducking and sidestepping and twisting and defending. He never misses a beat. It's almost like he can read Anderson's mind. I'm not the only one who's stunned. I've never seen Warner move like this, and I almost can't believe I've never seen it before. I feel a sudden, unbidden surge of respect for him as I watch him block attack after attack. I keep waiting for him to knock the dude out, but Warner makes no effort to hit Anderson. He only defends, and only when I see the increasing fury on Anderson's face do I realize that Warner is doing this on purpose. Of course he is. He's not fighting back because he knows it's what Anderson wants. The cool, emotionless expression on Warner's face is driving Anderson insane. Good. And the more he fails to rattle his son, the more enraged Anderson gets. Blood still trickles slowly from the half-healed wound on his neck when he cries out angrily and pulls free a gun from inside his jacket pocket. Enough! He shouts, that is enough! Warner takes a careful step back. Give me the girl, Aaron. Give me the girl, and I will spare the rest of these idiots. I only want the girl. Warner is an immovable object. Fine. Anderson says angrily, seize him. 6 Supreme Guards begin advancing on Warner, and he doesn't so much as flinch. I exchange glances with Winston, and it's enough. I throw my invisibility over Winston just as he throws his arms out, his ability to stretch his limbs, knocking through 3 of them to the ground. In the same moment, Hader pulls a machete from somewhere inside the bloodied chainmail he's wearing under his coat and tosses it to Warner, who drops the machine gun and catches the blade by the hilt without even looking. A fucking machete. Castle is on his knees, arms toward the sky as he breaks off more pieces of the half-devastated building, but this time Anderson's men don't give him the chance. I run forward too late to help as Castle is knocked out from behind, and still I throw myself into the fight, battling for ownership of the soldier's gun with skills I developed as a teenager. A single solid punch to the nose, a clean uppercut, a hard kick to the chest, a good old-fashioned strangulation. I look up, gasping for breath, hoping for good news, and do a double take. 10 men have closed in on Warner, and I don't understand where they came from. I thought we were down to 3 or 4. I spin around, confused, turning back just in time to watch Warner drop to one knee and swing up with a machete in a sudden, perfect arc, gutting the man like a fish. Oh. Gutting the man. Warner turns. Another strong swing, slicing through the guy on his left, disconnecting the dude's spine in a move so horrific I have to look away. And the second it takes me to turn back, another guard has already charged forward. Warner pivots sharply, shoving the blade directly up the guy's throat and into his open, screaming mouth. With a final tug, Warner pulls the blade free, and the man falls to the ground with a single soft thud. The remaining members of the Supreme Guard hesitate. I realize then that whoever these new soldiers are, they've been given specific orders to attack Warner and no one else. The rest of us are suddenly without an obvious task, free to sink into the ground, disappear into exhaustion. Tempting. I search for... God, how long is this fucking chapter? I search for Castle, wanting to make sure he's okay, and realize he looks stricken. He's staring at Warner. Warner, who's staring at the blood pooling beneath his feet, his chest heaving, his fist still clenched around the shank of the machete. All this time, Castle really thought Warner was just a nice boy who'd made some simple mistakes, the kind of kid he could bring back from the brink. Not today. Warner looks up at his father, his face more blood than skin, his body shaking with rage. "Is this what you wanted?" he cries. But even Anderson seems surprised. Another guard moves forward so silently I don't even see the guns he's aimed in Warner's direction until the soldier screams and collapses to the ground. His eyes bulge as he clutches at his throat, where a shard of glass the size of my hand is caught in his jugular. I whip my head around to face Warner. He's still staring at Anderson, but his free hand is now dripping blood. Jesus Christ. "Take me instead," Warner says, his voice piercing the quiet. Anderson seems to come back to himself. "What?" "Leave her. Leave them all. Give me your word that you will leave her alone, and I will come back with you." I go suddenly still, and then I look around, eyes wide, for any indication that we're going to stop this idiot from doing something reckless, but no one meets my eyes. Everyone is riveted, terrified. But when I feel a familiar presence suddenly materialize beside me and relief floods through my body, I reach for her hand. At the same time, she reaches for mine, squeezing her fingers once before breaking the brief connection. Right now, it's enough to know she's here and standing next to me. Nazira is okay. We all wait in silence for the scene to change, hoping for something we don't even know how to name. It doesn't come. "I wish it were that simple," Anderson says finally. "I really do. But I'm afraid we need the girl. She's not so easily replaced. You said that Emmeline's body was deteriorating." Warner's voice is low, but clear, miraculously steady. "You said that without a strong enough body to contain her, she'd become volatile." Anderson visibly stiffens. "You need a replacement," Warner says. "A new body. Someone to help you complete Operation Synthesis." "No!" Castle cries. "No, don't do this. Take me." Warner says, "I will be your surrogate." Anderson's eyes go cold. He sounds almost convincingly calm when he says, "You would be willing to sacrifice yourself, your youth, and your health, and your entire life, to let that damaged, deranged girl continue to walk the earth?" Anderson's voice begins to rise in pitch. He seems suddenly on the verge of another breakdown. Do you even understand what you're saying? You have every opportunity, all the potential, and you'd be willing to throw it all away in exchange for what? He cries. Do you even know the kind of life to which you'd be sentencing yourself? A dark look passes over Warner's face. I think I would know better than most. Anderson pales. Why would you do this? It becomes clear to me that even now, despite everything, Anderson doesn't actually want to lose Warner, not like this. But Warner is unmoved. He says nothing, betrays nothing. He only blinks as someone else's blood drips down his face. Give me your word. Warner finally says, Your word that you will leave her alone forever. I want you to let her disappear. I want you to stop tracking her every move. I want you to forget she ever existed. In exchange, you can have what's left of my life. Oh my god, he's actually sacrificing himself for her. Zira gasps. Hader takes a sudden angry step forward and Stefan grabs his arm, somehow still strong enough to restrain Hader even as his own body bleeds out. This is his choice. Stefan gasps, wrapping his free arm around a tree for support. Leave him. This is a stupid choice. Hader cries, You can't do this, Habibi. Don't be an idiot. But Warner doesn't seem to hear anyone anymore. He stares only at Anderson, who seems generally distraught. I will stop fighting you. Warner says, I will do exactly as you ask, whatever you want. Just let her live. Anderson is silent for so long it sends a chill through me. Then, no. Without warning, Anderson raises his arm and fires 2 shots, the first at Nazira, hitting her square in the chest. The second, at me. Holy shit. Several people scream. I stumble and sway before collapsing. Shit. Find her. Anderson says, his voice booming. Burn the whole place to the ground if you have to. The pain is blinding. It moves through me in waves, electric and searing. Someone is touching me, moving my body. I'm okay. I try to say I'm okay, but the words don't come. He's hit me in my shoulder, I think, just shy of my chest. I'm not sure, but Nazira, someone needs to get to Nazira. I had a feeling you'd do something like this. I hear Anderson say, and I know you used one of these 2. I imagine him pointing to my prone body to Nazira's in order to make it happen. Silence. Oh, I see, Anderson says. You thought you were clever. You thought I didn't know you had any powers at all. Anderson's voice seems suddenly loud, too loud. He laughs. You thought I didn't. No. As if you could hide something like that from me. I knew it the day I found you in her holding cell. You were 16. You think I didn't have you tested after that? You think I haven't known all these years what you yourself didn't realize until 6 months ago? A fresh wave of fear washes over me. Anderson seems too pleased and Warner's gone quiet again, and I don't know what any of that means for us, but just as I'm beginning to experience full-blown panic, I hear a familiar cry. It sounds of such horrific agony I can't help but try to see what's happening, even as flashes of white blur my vision. I catch a mottled glimpse. Warner standing over Anderson's body, his right hand clenched around the handle of the machete he's buried in his father's chest. He plants his right foot on his father's gut and roughly pulls out the blade. Anderson's moan is so animal, so pathetic, I almost feel sorry for him. Warner wipes the blade on the grass and tosses it back to Hader, who catches it easily by the hilt even as he stands there, stunned, staring at me. I realize, me and Nazira. I've never seen him so unmasked. He seems paralyzed by fear. Watch him. Warner shouts to someone. He examines a gun he stole from his father, and satisfied he runs off, running after the Supreme Guard. Shots ring out in the distance. My vision begins to go spotty. Sounds bleed together, shifting focus. For moments at a time I hear it. All I hear is the sound of my own breathing, my heart beating. At least I hope that's the sound of my heart beating. Everything smells sharp like rust and steel. I realize then in a sudden startling moment that I can't feel my fingers. Finally I hear the muffled sounds of nearby movement of hands on my body trying to move me. Kenji. Someone shakes me. Kenji, can you hear me? Winston. I make a sound in my throat. My lips seem fused together. Kenji. More shaking. Are you okay? With great difficulty I pry my lips apart, but my mouth makes no sound. Then all at once, hey, buddy. Weird. He's conscious, Winston says, but disoriented. We don't have much time. I'll carry these to you to see if you can find a way to transport the others. Where are the girls? Someone says something back to him, and I don't catch it. I reach out suddenly with my good hand, clamping down on Winston's arm. Don't let them get Jay, I try to say. Don't let... Yeah,